Hi everyone, welcome to the Car Chat podcast. I'm Sam Moores, and with me today I have Simon Owen. Hello.
Hello.
Welcome. Can you tell the audience a little bit about sort of who you are and what you do?
So, as Sam has said, my name's Simon Owen. I am the head of brand for Scalextric. That role essentially means that I am in charge of the marketing and commercial function for the famous toy brand Scalextric, that I'm sure many of you listening in the UK and around the world will have played with as a child and hopefully still play with and collect now.
Yeah, absolutely. I was looking, I can't remember what I was doing. I was something recently. Oh yeah, I was visiting my dad and he had one of my old Scalextrics kits in a cupboard somewhere. And I was looking back and I think probably most people, I'm 34, so I don't know how old you are, but depending on...
Exactly. Same age.
Okay, the same age. So they might have had the same one. The one I had an F40 and an XJ220. And at the time, I had no idea what those cars were. There was just a red Ferrari type thing and a Jaguar. And spent many, 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 many hours hooning them around, flying off into walls, and then building, I think, what else did I do? I tried to build some like jumps and stuff like that. So lots and lots of fun. So I thought, oh, let's reach out, see what's going on. So how did you get into all this? What's your sort of path been?
So just like you, I had Scalextric when I was a child. I had it was called Alpine Rally. It was a Sierra versus a 911 Turbo, and it was two rally cars put together, and they had lights and all this sort of stuff. That's my first. Everyone as a child remembers that Christmas present they get, which just blows them away.
Yeah,
that's like the best present I ever had. So I remember that, and then I got a Formula One set for a birthday shortly afterwards. Mansell Williams against the Senna Lotus. And I just sort of went from there. As a child, every Christmas, every birthday, right up into sort of teenage years, I would get a Scalextric car, maybe another set, and then while I was at sort of sixth form age, I started working in a local sort of toy and hobby shop. So I was exposed to the brand again then. On my way to university, did a history degree, not a marketing degree, not a engineering, nothing like that. And then when I came out of university, I joined Hornby Hobbies, originally as a researcher for the Airfix brand. So literally just nothing to do with commercials, nothing to do with marketing, just making sure the aircraft that we produced on Airfix sort of looked correct. But it was just sort of sat in the office, always looking across at the Scalextric team and sort of pining to go and work over there. And a few years ago, I moved over to the marketing function on Scalextric, brand manager for a year and a bit, and then just recently became sort of head of brand. So it's been sort of a movement from playing with it as a child, from selling it, and now to heading up the team that markets it and decides what cars we do.
That's quite fun. When you were researching like models, what level of detail do you go into? Does that get done?
Yeah, I mean, for Airfix, it's absolutely incredible level of detail. That's down to sort of rivet details, stringer detail inside the fuselage, where does this panel line change between these different versions. On that brand, just like on our Hornby Railways brand, it's absolutely minute detail. On Scalextric, it's not quite so much.
Yeah.
Because there are toys. Even the most expensive Scalextric car is still a toy. It does still run around a track. It just has to function. And we do have to have that functionality built into it.
Yeah.
So we've done a Lotus 25 recently, obviously very early 1960s Grand Prix car. Tiny little thing, absolutely tiny. And that was quite difficult to make it accurate. We did have to make some small modifications to the shape and the design to physically fit a motor and a little 32nd scale Jim Clark in it. So
yeah.
On this brand now, we do still pay attention to detail. Our models are still accurate, but you do have to take some liberties here and there with it.
Yeah, totally. And then presumably, let's say with that Lotus, these cars get abused.
Yeah.
Like properly get, like everyone that's ever played Scalextrics, you get to the first corner and you've gone like full chat and off it goes, like flying into whatever solid objects are nearby. Is it like, does presumably some of the design, does it get adapted a bit to make them tough?
So we have different sort of levels of the range. We have what's called our super resistant range, which consists of a couple of Pagani Huayra BC Roadster hypercars. We have a Lamborghini Centenario in that range. We have a made-up sort of hypercar designed ourselves and some GT cars.
Yeah.
These are single-piece mouldings. They are virtually indestructible. You can just smash them into a skirting board at high speed and they just bounce off and come back for more. obviously the more high end stuff we have, the 6-wheel Tyrrell we've done, and the Ayrton Senna Lotuses and things like that. They are more fragile. They will sustain some playing with and some racing and things like that, but they will not survive a child essentially driving around the living room into the fireplace hearth every other lap. But they're not designed for that. They're not built for that. They're not sold for that. So it's anything that goes in the set is robust, it is strong, and it is able to survive being played with. Anything that is a bit more high end, a bit more obviously high end, is not quite so tough. But even with the sort of super resistant stuff, it does teach children that if you go too fast into a corner and crash, you will wreck your car. It isn't a Gran Turismo where you press a button and all of a sudden you're back on the track where you were, your time is made up and your spoiler's back on the back of the car. Yeah. These are real things. They're tangible. You hold them in your hand and you can break them.
Yeah, and real consequences. I remember the one that always got me is like, you're trying to do a race of however many laps, 5 laps, and you'd have to count them yourself and stuff like that. And you'd come off, and then your car's just miles away. And you've got to crawl across the room, find it, come back. You're in a rush. The person who you're with is probably like kicking it out of the way and whatnot. The cars over the years and the sort of Scalextrics, saying Scalextrics, I realised I had no idea how you spelled Scalextrics. And it seems to be one of those. Where did that name come from?
So the name comes from scale, because they're all scale, and then electric. So it's scale, electric.
Makes sense.
In terms of the way of running across the room to get your card, I forget we now have wireless hand controllers, so there's no more sitting sitting next to the door where the plug socket is. You can now have the track on the floor, sit on the sofa, or sit at the corner you always crash at. So there is that. You don't have to drag a wire across a room either and have a car sitting there.
That's useful. How has the sort of tech changed over time?
So we actually really quick to embrace new technology. A good sort of 20 years ago, we came up with Scalextric Digital. Scalextric Digital means that each car has a digital chip in it. And rather than standard Scalextric, where you really just control the amount of current that goes to the rail, this time the track is always live, and your car actually controls how much current it sucks up, basically, or takes in. And this means you can run up to 6 cars on one lane. Yeah. So this is a great addition to what we offer, because you can have sort of 6 brilliant. Cars fighting out, lane changing, all of that sort of thing. It's really, 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 really cool. And then recently we came up with Scalextric Spark Plug, where instead of using digital hand controllers, you actually control the racing from your phone. Oh, okay. So you download an app, put a little dongle thing into where the power base goes, and do everything off your mobile phone. That's quite fun. That opens up a whole new world of possibility. Well, in my limited experience of Scalextrics, of being able to not, like, it has to be on that, you put the car on the wrong track and then it's on their controller and off it goes, and and all that sort of stuff. I remember trying, always at the time, you'd be like, try and do like a little skid, get enough speed that it sort of goes off a bit. And then I was having a look on the website, and you have some drift, is that like Drift 360 or something? Yeah. What's in those? So the drift cars have a different guide blade on the front. So the guide blade goes all the way around, and basically you can just spin them round and round and round, like I do donuts just all day, round and round and round like that. And you head into a corner too fast, rather than just coming off the track, instead the car will spin and you can go back the way you came. So it essentially recreates real drifting, but on a Scalextric format using a pair of Mustangs. It is, for a set, it is one of our most enjoyable sets, especially for kids or people who don't want to race, they just want to have some fun, because you can get Larry angles, Larry slides. It's super fun. And how do they stay in, as opposed to just flying out? Because the guide blades are just a bit deeper, and because they go around 360, you don't have that bit where the guide blade hits the end of its sort of tether almost, and then pitches the car up. It just keeps on sliding around. Oh, that sounds mega. Over the years, you must have seen some crazy stuff people have done. I've not really looked it up, but I imagine, just from like my own home builds of age 10 or something, you're like, okay, let's put some ramps in, let's make it go up a wall and whatever. Presumably some people have made some absolutely batshit stuff. Yeah. I mean, some guys have made some absolutely incredible layouts, the real 30-second scale versions of real circuits. We shared Suzuka on our social media recently, which even had a little dip, and Bridge with 130R was absolutely incredible. People make full-size Brands Hatch layouts. Yeah, people do all sorts of crazy stuff like that. And then they add buildings and scenery and water effect and all sorts. And some of the rally tracks are amazing as well, using sort of cocoa powder as dirt and some weird sort of flower effect as snow. And yeah, some of the guys take it to the absolute extreme, and it's just brilliant. And is it like, do you find
Are there like there's some hardcore fanatics that collect the older cars? Because presumably the cars, you can't get all the cars that were available now.
Yeah. No, yeah. So our range sort of resets every year, and most of the cars are sort of come in and come out. You know, they don't sit in the range for a long period of time. Yeah, we do have sort of hardcore collectors that have got one of every car we've made. We have sort of 3 different sort of groups of consumers. We have the hardcore collectors. They buy them, they don't race them, they just sit in the box and they collect them because they like having a collection of Scalextric cars or slot cars. We have the racer. They race out at the local club, or they race with friends, and they buy the cars purely to use them. They modify them, they make them as quick as they can, and their focus isn't necessarily what the car looks like, it's about how it handles. And then we have our biggest consumer group, which is the third one, which are casual people that have a Scalextric at Christmas, at birthdays, and occasionally buy extra cars in order to use them. For sets, of course, we have another market as well, which are the mums and dads who buy them purely for the kids as a present.
Yeah, absolutely. In terms of modifications, what sort of things do people do to them to make them faster?
So you can do modifications to tyres, to chassis, the engines, all sorts. Anything you can do on a real car, even down to suspension. Not aero. They are tiny little cars, so aero doesn't matter. But everything else, you can do all sorts of mods to get a bit more performance out of them.
Yeah, because I think I've seen in sort of generic slot car type situation, people like, oh, this car's got more aero and whatnot, but presumably that doesn't have much effect unless they
not with that sort of stuff. No, it's all about mechanical grip through the tyres and the chassis.
So do they get like little slicks and like heat them up and stuff?
Oh yeah. They're not allowed to heat them up, but they treat them. They often put a sort of stuff on the tyres to
like
treat them,
or something.
Yeah, all sorts of stuff like that. Yeah, that's a sort of different world to the one we inhabit. But some of the guys take it extremely serious. I think they spend longer getting their little cars ready for slot car race day than I do getting my car ready for a track day. Honestly, I spend far more time. I just check it's got oil in it and air in the tyres.
Yeah, the wheels are not going to fall off, and then off you go. Yeah, that's quite interesting. It's such a funny little like kind of world that you can sort of dive into. How fast is this? How fast in a standard? Are they all the same speed? Have they all got the same motor in?
No, I mean, depending on the car, the sort of GT cars tend to be the quickest because of the chassis design and things like that. I mean, in a real speed, we can get them up to, I think, around 30 mile an hour, which is still pretty quick. Scale speed, it's absolutely ridiculous, of course. Yeah. But you can get them to go pretty quick. We have raced a Scalextric Jaguar I-Pace against a real Jaguar I-Pace racing car. We did it over quite short, like 20 meters, and it was pretty neck and neck up at the end. Obviously, we had the gap on acceleration, but it topped out a bit quicker than us.
Yeah, I remember. I can't remember. Was it a movie? There's a movie, I think, where there's a race of like a little RC truck against the full-size monster truck, and whoever's driving gets pissed off and just runs over the RC truck. But I've seen those sorts of things go so fast, and it's so funny seeing something tiny move so quickly. At the moment, the tech has changed a bit. We've got all the digital stuff, the apps. Where do you see this sort of space going moving forwards? Do you find young people are still super interested, or are they more swayed by digital stuff and, apps and games and things?
I think that young people are genuinely very interested in it. I mean, it's the younger age group. Obviously, it's getting it in front of them. To be honest, I mean, things like the My First Scalextric that we do, and that's a product for very young age, or preschool age. And that when a young kid has a go on that, they absolutely adore it. Male, female, doesn't matter. They love it. And then when they get sort of early teens, that's when you tend to lose them a bit. Obviously, and a bit younger actually nowadays with games consoles and stuff like that. But then as they get older, then as they become fathers and old mums themselves, that's when they tend to see them coming back. So when a kid has a go on it, they love it. It's just getting them to ask for that present or getting in front of the parents and them understanding that they would want it.
Yeah. And how do you approach that side of it? How do you get it in front of people?
We would do very simple things. We do advertise on television, YouTube, social media, obviously bits and pieces like that. We have a large media campaign around our sets, our micro sets, and our sort of toy 30-second scale sets. We were quite unique in the toy company because we don't tend actually to advertise to children. We actually advertise to parents because it's parents and grandparents that have an awareness of our product. So we actually advertise mainly to them. We have a Bond set, so a micro Scalextric Bond set, which is very, very popular with kids, even though kids can't go and see the film. Kids haven't gone to see No Time to Die, and yet that set is one of our more popular items.
Yeah, I could totally see that. Like if I was buying one for my kid, I've got 1 month old at the moment, so he's probably not quite there yet. But I would totally be like, I want the XYZ, whatever, the rally cars, or find something that interests me, and then he would get the version, and then I would play with it.
Yeah.
You talked about some of the cool associations you've had through the years and the various sort of, like little GT cars, or I've seen some you've got like a McLaren F1 GTR and stuff like that. How do you go about getting those deals? How does all of that work? And presumably there's a process of like what we'd like to have, and then moving forward, what can we get, and that sort of stuff.
Yeah, so in terms of the licensing with the car manufacturers, that's something that sits sort of very closely with myself. And the first thing we have to do as a brand, of course, is decide what license do we want. You know, in Formula One, for instance, which team do you want to be associated with? Who are our competition associated with? Who are the most popular teams? For road cars, it's looking about who's got a reasonable breadth of range, what do they offer, and who have people heard of. So, for instance, in the hypercar front, would we work with somebody like the new Gordon Murray Group or Brabham? They make some really cool looking cars, but how many parents on the high street have heard of them? We're actually working with Pagani at the moment, which is a bit more of a risk for us because, again, most people on the high street potentially haven't heard of Pagani. They have Lamborghini, who we work with, and of Porsche and things like that. But you have to weigh up all these different options and bits and pieces before you start speaking to these licensors. And then when you speak to them, obviously some of them aren't interested. They may have an exclusive deal with somebody else, or they may not want their cars as slot cars. You do occasionally get that, not often. And then you tend to have a meeting. Back in the pre-COVID, in the normal days, you'd go out and see them at their factory or their base. And I had an amazing trip to look around the Pagani factory in 2019, which is they do tours. And once COVID is finished, everybody needs to go out there because it's like a little Italian town they've built inside the factory. It's absolutely insane. You do something like that, you go meet them, and then you have to do all the financial work then to make sure it works for both parties. How much percentage points you're going to pay for a license, how many cars do you have to produce, what liveries can you do. So we pride ourselves in doing accurate racing liveries, and some licensors aren't always that keen on the. So we say they're more. That's the way I just go. They're more controversial liveries from their past being accurately reproduced now. So say they had a cigarette logo in the past, some manufacturers won't allow us to do those liveries at all. Some will allow us to do those liveries accurately, so long as they are labelled as 18 plus products, which we do. And some will allow us to do a sort of halfway house. So you have all of these different things to consider before you put it in.
That's quite funny that you'd have an 18 plus slot car, but I understand because of the advertising. And then when with those ones that, let's say they've got, a historic racing car, let's just say it had a cigarette brand, and all these cars often have multiple sponsors. Now, who has the license to that? Because they've got all of these different names on these cars. How does that work?
So this is a bit of a slightly awkward area, really. It's just, some of those sponsors we have to have a license with, depending on the look of the car. So, for instance, Golf. If the car is blue and orange and has a Golf logo, it needs a Golf license. If that car is, say, Joe Bloggs somewhere raced a BMW M3 in North America in 1991, and he had a tiny little Golf logo on the rear wing, then that is just part of the bigger livery, and you don't then need a license with that thing. It's if the whole look of the car conforms to that licensor's style guide and IP, basically. In terms of all the little mini sponsors, what we tend to do is we tend to speak to the car's owner, the team owner. If it's a historical livery, we will try and speak to the team owner or the driver, someone associated with it, and get their permission, basically, and say, look, well, you own this car now, can we recreate it? That's why you often see a famous car from the past, but we don't call it AC Cobra Le Mans 1963. We'll say it's Goodwood 2021 because I can speak to the owner at Goodwood, and then this has never happened. If anyone then comes after me, I can say, well, he's got his logos in his real car. You sort of do it like that, and it's hard work and it's awkward, and you do have to tread carefully. There's been a few cars we've got right near being able to do, and suddenly had to go, hang on, this is going to result in an angry letter from somebody, so we can't do it. But it's just all about being open and transparent with everybody, the manufacturers, the guys that own the car and girls that own the car now, the teams. Modern stuff's easy because you go to the team and you say, look, your guys, your Mercedes-AMG GT3, can we recreate this? Just to let you know, every sponsorship logo will be accurately reproduced. Is it okay if they're all on there? And most sponsors, they say yes, because why wouldn't you want your logo being reproduced? It hits more people. I mean,
Absolutely.
that they did the ABBA Motorsport, then the Neary's AMG GT3 that races in British GT.
Yeah.
ABBA commercials, I'm sure they're quite a big commercials firm, but I doubt many people in Australia would have heard of them. But a huge amount of those Mercedes cars have been raced by kids and adults in Australia. Now that logo is flashing past them every time they play Scalextric. So actually, for sponsors, it's a great way of increasing their reach.
Yeah. That makes total sense. That must be really fun. Good doing that side of it, researching, meeting people. Do you have a personal sort of bit of motorsport history or a certain style that you're like, oh, I love this, and therefore you wouldn't necessarily officially admit that, but you're like, yeah, let's try and push it in this direction. I love GT racing. Let's go watch some GT racing.
Yeah, I mean, I love all motorsport. That's four wheels. I mean, I'm not into bike racing, so you're not going to see bikes coming back on Scalextric for a while, because it's no desire of mine, and I'm not as into rally. Wearing a bobble hat in a cold forest and huddling around a campfire is not how I want to spend my November afternoons.
Yeah.
But I love all motorsport. I have a season pass at Brands Hatch. If I'm not at Brands Hatch, if there's nothing on, I'll travel further afield. I'll go to Coombs, Nesserton, Mallory, even Silverstone sometimes. I'm really desperate to watch something in a grey bass of concrete. Goodwood, all the Goodwood events I go to. So any motorsport is great. I'll watch anything from Banger Racing to HSCC meetings. So all of it's good for me. In terms of a personal favourite, I like historic. I like anything from the late 60s, early 70s, right up to the sort of mid 90s, especially touring cars and GTs. So that's sort of my area that I really enjoy. But then I also like 2-litre sports racing cars, things like that. The HSCC Martini Pre-80 Endurance is a great series. Really, the Acellas, the Chevrons, the Marches. There's some great cars in that. We would never do those cars. They're completely esoteric and away from what we have to do as a mainstream manufacturer. But you do tend to choose liveries that you like best, and especially with the modern touring cars, there's certain drivers on the grid who I've enjoyed watching for a long time, and I've sort of got to know over the past few years, and it's a much easier conversation for them to come to me and say, "Oh, we do our car," and it's like, "Yeah, of course we will," because you're my mate, and you coach me on track days. So there is some of that, but everything I do, I have to come back to the business and present to the board and to the sales guys with a hard financial line of it's going to make us this. Because if anyone does listen to a podcast like this or hears me talking and goes, so why have you done so many of that guy's BMWs? It's like, well, they deliver this, and this. It's not just because, he's a mate.
Yeah, and you've got to, ultimately, you try and pitch to the right people, and then throughout the process, you get to know those people. So then you do more with those people. That's kind of how all of this stuff works. It's like...
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've done a load of cars belonging to Andrew Jordan from the Jordan Racing team. This year we've got a Mark Sumpter Cortina. We've got his Mini Miglia. We've done his Pre-66 Mini, and his the Cortina he shares with Howard from Take That. Done his BTCC cars. And I think we're also doing his Cobra, the Dragon Snake Cobra at some point potentially in the future. So, you do have to... You form these relationships, and it just becomes easier. They have great cars. They're great guys to work with. He sends me paint chips, sends me information. I can go and see him, whenever he's free. It just becomes a much, much easier thing to do. And they have great cars. It's the other relationship we have that's great at the moment is with Duncan Hamilton Rothko, just down near Basingstoke. That's an incredible collection, and it's a real privilege that they allow me access to it, and to the Duncan Hamilton sales side on the other side as well. So you do form these relationships, and it just becomes easier, Rather than speaking to someone new to do a car, I can get one just as good with a team I've already worked with. On GT racing, we do a huge amount of stuff with TF Sport and Ram Motorsport as well, with the Mercedes for Ram, and TF is the Astons. But when we have new cars, got the Porsche now, we're speaking to new teams.
Yeah, it sounds like you get to sort of, you're based around doing all this stuff with Scalextric, but it sounds like it's actually for you a super broad. If you like cars and motor racing and stuff, you get to deal with all of these interesting people.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a wide range of things as well. It's everything from rally, modern rally, historic rally, right down, even right across to club racing. We sponsor the BRSCC Modified Ford Series, which is proper club racing. Bunch of guys mainly from actually around the country, actually racing Escort Mark 1s, 2s, Cosworths, Safi Cosworths, proper 3-door Cosworths. And I love club racing. I love that feel of club racing. Why do I want to spend thousands of people at a touring car meeting watching half as many races when I can go to a Beer SCC or 750 Motor Club race meeting and watch huge amounts of stuff, get full access to the paddock, access to the drivers, and be almost alone on the bank with my sandwiches and a magazine. You know, it's proper nerdy motorsport, but it's the best form of motorsport because it's pure. There's no messing around. There's no balance of performance. It's just go out there and have some fun with your cars, lads. And we sponsor that series. We give them prizes, and the cars carry our logo.
Nice.
We're doing some other bits, some other series. We're doing work with the MSVR KA Endurance series.
Oh, that sounds wicked. That series.
You know, they're great fun to watch, those races, and they do some great stuff. So again, we're giving them some prizes and doing some bits and pieces with them. And then right up to our license with Formula E, you know, the forefront of modern technology, of a motorsport which is going in a different direction in many ways to the rest of the motorsport out there. And it's very, very new, very, very modern, very, very high tech. And we're a partner with them, and we do some Formula E sets. And then, of course, there's Formula One with teams which we hope to be working with soon. So it's, for me as a motorsport fan, I can't think of many other jobs or career paths where you can do this much and this much of different stuff as well. You know, I can be looking, since becoming head of brand, I'm doing much more office-based stuff. It's much more Excel and financial. But when I was brand manager and really going out and about, I'd spend the morning at historic race preparations, you know, looking at somewhere that's got everything from MG Midgets and Heelys to Sierra Cosworths. And then in the afternoon, you go see a modern GT3 or touring car team. Everything's polished white walls and stuff. So it's a real mix of stuff. And you know, get to see some great events.
That's such a diverse mix, and yeah, I'm actually struggling to think of an industry where you get to dabble up, other than, let's say, doing what I do. But I don't do that much. Like, okay, I get to talk to a lot of different people and whatnot, but such a diverse mix of teams and people and situations. You get to go to all of this wide variety of events and whatnot. Is there one that stands out? Is there one that's your like particular, that's my favourite?
Yeah, Le Mans Classic.
Oh, that's the one.
Yeah, without a shadow of a doubt. I mean, that is just another level of... Goodwood is great. Goodwood is absolutely brilliant, but Goodwood is actually quite narrow in terms of what you see at times.
Yeah.
You know, it tends to be the same cars, and it tends to be, because I do a lot watching a lot of motorsport in the UK.
Yeah. It
tends to be the same cars that Goodwood as there are most of the time at Masters, HSCC, except some of the big races. Whereas Le Mans Classic, you get this incredible sort of 1920s mix in Plateau 1. Right up to these days, you have the, I think it's Peter Auto race there with their 90s endurance legends and stuff like that. You know, it's got this huge mix. And then you're at Le Mans, which is this incredible circuit. And so in terms of the cars, that's the number one sort of event, and everything else around it is just so good. But it's... So at the start of the year, I get my calendar and I mark out all the different motorsport events I want to go to throughout the year. And some I colour in, very sad, some I colour in red.
Yeah.
So I share the calendar with my partner and I say, listen, love, whatever you think you've got on that weekend, I'm not there. And in actual fact, the number one for that is the Classic Sports Car Club in the UK.
Okay.
Purely because they have the special saloons and mod sports, which are just the most bonkers creations from the 70s to now. They have the great 60s, 70s, 80s, all the sort of motorsport I love, GTs and saloons, mixed together, proper club motorsport, great friendly. It costs, and I've got my pass most of the time, but if I have to go pay to get in, it's £15 for like a whole day's worth of action. So yeah, it's probably that.
That sounds pretty good. That group, I did for a couple of years, did the photography for a bunch of events for they're now called the Endurance Racing Legends. So that 90s, 2000s Le Mans cars group.
Oh, cool.
And it was sick. It's just, I didn't realize until fairly recently, or at least till I started doing that people owned those cars. I didn't really know you could buy them. You sort of can.
Yeah.
And then ran them. And I guess with the sort of advent of that club, and then there's now a historics one as well, that people are driving all of these cars that I didn't watch much motorsport, as I say, but I definitely tuned in a little bit for Le Mans and stuff every now and then, and see like a 997 RSR driving down the whatever Mulsanne, to then go to Le Mans Classic, which is, as I've been once, and it was just, like you said, for anyone that's not been, it's just the sickest stuff. Like and a full spread. You get absolutely everything pretty much there.
I mean, you know, we did it as an event. We were there having a little stand, and you know, when you see you've been working all day and you're tired, and it was so hot when we went. It was sort of 40 degrees, which was great. And sort of sat in this grandstand, and I probably should go home. And the sun was just gone down. And then a 917 comes absolutely blasting through the Porsche curves. You think, I'm probably going to stay at least until sort of 4 or 5 in the morning. Then in this case, it's just another world. And I can access the cars. Any motorsport where during the lunch break or during the end of the break, you can go and actually look at the cars up close and chat to the drivers and the mechanics. That's what it's all about. And that's why the really big events, I don't go to the Grand Prix, because you sit in a crowd and you can't see that much. I actually can see more watching at home. I can't get in the pits. I can't go look at the cars. I can't take a close interest. Right, fair enough. It's silly that to be expected that you would. But that's why I prefer the sort of smaller events.
Yeah, 100%. Like I've been to 1 or 2 F1 races, and I didn't really find it that interesting. Like it was cool to see the cars go past and stuff. I went to Spa, but like you said, you can't get any access. And then I started going to these historic events, and we'll just talk about Le Mans Classic because that's the sort of biggest one, probably. You can go in, and now they've got these modern classes as well. So if you like the more modern cars, they have cars up to sort of 2012, which basically look like the current ones, except sound obscene.
Yeah, well, the trouble is, of course, that being as we're the same age, it does make you feel a bit old when you go to watch a. For instance, at Silverstone in March, Classic Touring Car Racing Club, I got a class for the Super Tourers.
Yeah,
it's a classic series. I'm thinking, I remember them. Excited about that Vectra. I remember having a poster of that 406 on my wall. I remember having a Scalextric car, that Mondeo. These are now historic. Like, these are classic cars. It's weird.
It is weird. I have a Gen 2 997 GT3 RS that I've owned for 9 years now, and that's now considered a modern classic. And I don't know.
Yeah, you probably get that classic insurance for that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And up until fairly recently, it just didn't click in my head that it's actually not a new car. Like, because I've had it since it was reasonably new, and you look back. But
well, I bought a new car on Friday. It's just a Mercedes diesel estate, and it's like a 2012 plate. Yeah. And I got it home, and my partner was like, "Oh, this is really cool. Look, it's got all like heated seats and sat up." And I was like, "Yeah, all modern cars do this." It just happens that my car, the other car I've got was built in 1993, love, and that has no mod cons. It's amazing to think how much car technology has moved on, especially in motorsport. And because you look at those modern endurance legends and you think, oh yeah, they do all right on a modern grid, and then you actually look at the lap times of some decent guys driving them, and you think, no, they're seconds and seconds off the pace of a modern GT3 car.
Yeah. And then you look at, because modern GT3 or GTE they're not that different to LMP2, which when you look at the cars and you look at one which is like a prototype, you're like, this looks like a race car. Okay, they both look like race cars, one more like, a road car, but the difference is not that much in terms of, I know they're restricted and they're all restricted and blah, 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 blah. But
I think GT3s are restricted more than LMP2. So it's kind of like, if they really took the reins off GT3, if they really let them go nuts on it, it would set off a horsepower and aero race that would dilute the amount of manufacturers involved, which would be awful. But it would be kind of cool to see one. It would be cool.
Because Super GT, the Japanese series, is that what it's called? That's a bit like GT3, but unhinged. I know they're not.
Two cars. They have GT300, which is GT3 rules now, but you're allowed to have other chassis in it, and it's all balanced together. And then GT500, which is the same as what DTM was, but GT500 is like LMP 3 or 2 pace. I think that stuff is seriously quick, and that's actually a category we'd love to do, but dealing with the Japanese teams and manufacturers is a bit of a step too far at times for us.
Yeah, I imagine it's trickier.
There is a language barrier. Yeah, my Japanese is not great.
No, mine is awful. Actually, because that's probably a good thing being based in the UK. We have so many of these teams. So many of the international teams are in the UK, and they're all kind of in one area, really.
Yeah, they are. I mean, Formula One, they are. A lot of GT, they are. And also, we have a lot of big series visit here. It's, we obviously have British, in terms of GT racing, we have British GT, which is a great source of liveries and cars for us. But then we also have the SRO come over. They go to Brands for the sprint, and they go to Silverstone for the endurance, which I'd always attend the sprint at Brands at least. And then the other series and stuff, normally there's a British driver kicking around somewhere in that series we can contact and be introduced to a team that way. So Electric name doesn't open doors worldwide quite as much as it does in the UK, but the strength of it in the UK means it's rare to speak to a team or a driver and say you work for Scalextric and not elicit a positive response.
Yeah, it's so good. Like everyone, definitely in the motorsport world, car world, they're gonna have had a Scalextric set at some point.
Well, the thing is, so many people began their career like that way. Ross Brawn designed slot car chassis back in the 60s before he moved on to real cars. Jenson Button raced Scalextric when he was young. There's not many British drivers who haven't had a Scalextric set and haven't learned, in a way, how to drive a car on a Scalextric set. For us, you can play with our My First stuff much younger than you can a proper simulator, and it teaches you control and car control and sort of taming the aggression into the corners and fast in, slow out, all those motorsport cliches that the drivers need to learn.
Yeah, and absolutely. I think everyone, like when I was just having a look and seeing who we could have on the podcast and whatnot, and I came across Scalextric, and I think most people have the response of it puts a smile on their face straight away. They're like, yeah, I like that brand.
It's fun.
It's fun.
It's fun. And that whole ethos for us behind our brand is that it must be fun. Whether you find fun collecting 1960s Aston Martins that are produced in one colour as a mould flush, hey, if that's what you find fun, then you fill your boots, mate. Yeah, that's great. Whether you find fun deliberately smashing the cars into a wall to how many pieces you can break them into, that's fine. It doesn't matter what purpose that we've developed the cars for. What matters is the consumer, the end user, whoever that is, wherever they're from, wherever they are, they enjoy it. That's all that we care about. We don't care how you enjoy our products, just enjoy them.
Yeah, it's cool. And I guess like real racing, if there's like let's say GT3 racing, one of the big things about GT3 racing, not that they market it at all, and it's not really a particular reason to watch it, is there is unbelievable crashes. And therefore, the manufacturers are selling a lot of parts. So that also works for Scalextric.
Yeah, we don't really sell parts as much, but it works for us in terms of the cars are exciting and they are able to crash our cars and able to have the occasional bump. Yeah, it definitely is a bonus.
Where is it that there's that track? Is it Macau? That there's just every year there's just unbelievable. I don't understand how that circuit is still kind of there, because
I mean Pau is even worse in the south of France, but Macau is an exciting one. I think the teams only go there for the end of year party. I believe that is the only reason they take the cars and the stuff over there for it to get smashed up. I believe afterwards it all goes a bit nuts. So,
they're like, well, we were gonna build a new car next year anyway. Let's put 50 GT cars into one corner, see how it goes.
Yeah, and let's make it so that if one of them spins, the rest can't get anywhere. Yeah. I actually find the single-seater races around there scarier because that's quicker and they're a bit more exposed.
And they have, there's this whole sausage curb thing at the moment where a whole bunch of drivers have been really badly injured by cars just getting kicked up in the air. And I think it's Macau actually, where was it
It was Sophia Flörsch, wasn't it? I think the F3 driver got launched over the back of somebody and basically impacted the camera tower about 10 feet up. Yeah,
that's horrific. Absolutely horrific.
And that is something I think, although I go to Brands Hatch and I'm like, another layer of fencing. In actual fact, with the speeds of modern cars, if you want to see modern cars at a circuit and everyone to be kept safe, then it's just something you've got to get used to. You've got to have that fencing, you've got to have that distance. The last thing you want is a car ending up in the spectator area or a car coming to too short a stop. So it is what it is for me on motorsport. And I think Goodwood is, I'm always amazed when I go to Goodwood how close you are and how little there is in between you and the cars. It's great for spectator, it's great for photography, but core, it's a bit eye-opening, some of the speeds, some of the Whitson Trophy cars.
It is, and you look at some of this stuff, and as a driver on some level, I'm very wary of what can happen and safety elements. And you look at certain circuits and certain styles of cars, and I think when you first go and watch motorsport, you're like, great, I'll stand here and it's all good, and then you start seeing more accidents, and let's say Goodwood for example, and you start realizing that cars seem to end up in places where you do not expect cars to end up. And like as a spectator, you've got to really be careful. I guess the one that's insane for that, and I've never gone to watch it, and actually that's something I need to change. Rallying, the the fans for rallying, and I think I've seen some stuff recently from like Finland and places like that where they're just on the side of the track with the phone out.
Another world. I mean, I've got to be honest, if that's me, I probably am going to be at the side of the track, but at least I'm going to be on the inside of the corner rather than the outside. I think that's when you see a very obvious escape road and people trying to watch from there, you think it's a recipe for disaster. But I think motorsport is, you feel it, don't you? It's not just about the look of the cars, it's the noise, it's the sound. You know, a great big American V8 in the back of a Formula 5000 or a Can-Am car goes past you, you feel that. It's not just a noise, you're just wearing earplugs, you feel it. And you don't want to lose that. You want to be close enough for that. It's just having a good medium whereby tracks are safe for the driver, they're safe for the spectator, but that feeling of closeness and that feeling of excitement isn't lost.
Yeah, and you definitely find the more of that, there's that disconnect between those two, whether it's like rallying, you see that is a car that you see on the street, whether it's your Fiesta or it's not a Fiesta anymore. Is it a Puma now?
Puma now, yeah.
And then it's been pumped up and you can see it on the track, which is such an amazing thing. I've always thought it would be really cool if manufacturers, let's say the Puma is not a particularly car, I like the Fiesta, but like, if they did a wide body stupid rally kit for the road car.
Well, I mean, look, we grew up in the 90s. You had Escort Cozzis, Evos, Celica ST205, GT4s, all of that sort of stuff, RS500s, Alfa Romeo 155s coming with an extra wing in the boot for the Silverstone edition so they could race some touring cars. And that homologation special stuff is missing, I think, at the moment. Total have done it with the Yaris. Ish. But, yeah, I mean, I love seeing wide body stuff and, anything that most normal people walking down the street look at it and go, that's horrible. I'm like, nah. Cool.
Yeah.
Like, one of my all-time favourite cars is the F40.
Yeah.
But I want an F40. I want an F40 LM.
Yeah, fair. Bit wider.
The triple rear wing with the extra plane down the middle and the BBS wheels and the big front splitter. And I know it's actually slower. It doesn't get to 200 because the aero, it's got more downforce. Yada. Don't care. It looks like a racing car. And that's what I think is a bit missing from modern motorsport. You don't have that obvious move over into the road. But that whole thing was unsustainable, wasn't it? The rally moved away from it, so touring and GT. So because
I think
tend to go a bit nuts.
Rally, there needs to be some sort of change of how it's televised and marketed. I think we've had with F1 with the Drive to Survive series. On Netflix. I didn't really follow F1 that much. I didn't find it very interesting at all. And then watched Drive to Survive, I think like 100 bazillion people and went, now I've found out so much more about the stories behind. It's actually much more interesting. And I now watch a lot more F1 races and watch the Drive to Survive series when it comes out, but watch a lot more F1. It'd be really cool to see some more series like that in rallying and the way it's televised, because it's not that easy to watch.
Yeah, definitely. I think that Drive to Survive has got so many people I know watched last year's Formula One season from the start. A lot of people started watching it when it was clear what was going on, of how close it was and how fierce the rivalry was. But they watched it from the start because they watched Drive to Survive because it was so good. And I think fair play to Liberty and the current Formula One management for allowing that access. I mean, a few years ago, you didn't see Formula One on YouTube. You're flicking through YouTube videos that weren't official Formula One content. Now there is, and it's embracing that world and bringing that soap opera-ness to it. And there's so many stories like that in motorsport. From every category you go to, there's a rivalry. And you can normally pick that up pretty quickly in a paddock and on track. So exposing that to a bigger world is great.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, as you're saying with F1, I think until very recently, drivers weren't allowed to tweet, post on social media, do anything during a race weekend. You're like, guys, this is marketing. This is free money for you.
Yeah. Let us know the drivers, get to feel a affinity with them, and then we'll buy their merch and we'll support them and we'll come to the races and we'll watch it on TV. So yeah, they've twigged that now, and it's all pretty good. And
it is so much more interesting getting a rounder picture of a person rather than just literally their lap time. That's it. What car they're driving in their lap time versus
you want to
things they
get
like.
to know them or to either like them or dislike them so you can feel just more involved in it.
Exactly. You need people that you like and you need people that you hate. Like, I don't actually particularly hate anyone, but like if you've got those two things, it makes it much more interesting.
But we all have our favourites, and I'm sure everyone, much of listened to the podcast, have got their opinions on the end of the Grand Prix season and how it played out.
What are your opinions on the end of the Grand Prix season?
My opinion is I don't mind the result because I was quite happy to see someone other than Lewis. I like Lewis. He's a very, very, no, he is probably one of the greatest ever Formula One drivers.
Yeah.
And Max, I think, is a very worthy champion. But how it happened doesn't sit well with me. If it had been a clear fight and Max had won, I think it would have sat better. Yeah. But it is what it is. You can't change it now. All they can do is learn from that and try to make sure next. And I don't understand with Formula One why they will not just do what they do in bloody touring cars, which is when they have a safety car, add the laps onto the end of the race.
Yeah.
So if you're behind the safety car for 10 laps, it's a 60-lap race, it becomes a 70-lap race, and you have to build enough fuel in for that eventuality. Done. None of this then would happen. You wouldn't have any of those problems. You could let the lap cars through because you get the laps at the end of the race. And then we'd have had a proper showdown at the end.
Yeah.
I guess because of fuel they won't do that. But yeah, I felt bad for Mercedes to lose in that way and Lewis to lose that way. He didn't do anything wrong. He drove a pretty spotless race.
He absolutely smashed it. Yeah.
It was nice to see, it's nice as a Formula One fan, if we look back over the history of it, not to have that era completely dominated by one team. It's nice to have a footnote of somebody else.
Yeah.
So it's
such a. I think
the result I wanted was Ferrari to dominate every single race and win everything, and that wasn't going to happen. So it really made no odds to me.
You never know; it might happen next year. Unlikely, possibly.
Got over there.
I think I'm the same. I like the final outcome. Whoever wins. Like if someone wins, fine. I have my slight preference of who I'd prefer to win, whatever. But like, I think the biggest injustice, and I think is probably what sits with most of the fans, and also the random people that have tuned in. The people that have just joined and be like, "Oh, what's this F1 malarkey? Oh, this is quite close." To watch and go, but someone just decided the result. Like,
yeah, and obviously we have a lot of different brands in this building, but few people watch Formula One, but a lot of people don't. And then they watch that race. And then on the Monday, I was having to explain to people why someone won. In football, for instance, you don't have to explain why West Ham beat whoever, because they scored. In Formula One, it was, they let them through, but then they stopped that. And they did that. You shouldn't have to do that. But, it's done now and it is what it is. And it's a shame because it overshadowed what had been one of the best seasons in as far as I can remember.
Absolutely amazing season. Like, for them to come into the final race level on points, was it level? Were they actually level? I think it was
I think they were, weren't they? 1 point in it, something like that, yeah.
Which is just like insane considering the whole season, how many races, all of that to come into this crazy ending after some interesting races. Yeah, I'll admit I was very pissed off, not with the who won, just with how it happened and the sort of inconsistency of the application of rules. Like, I feel like if there's a rule, you should stick to the way you do the rules.
But that's been that was the same all throughout the season. There are incidents where you look at it and you think the penalty there is much harsher than this penalty, but the consequence was so much worse. So it is. But you get that, and you get that in every sport, and it is what it is. And I just hope we have another close season this year. Yeah,
I don't think we will see the back of Lewis at the end of this, before next year. I think, I presume he's going to come back. I don't know why he wouldn't. Like, he's clearly at the top of his game with a very good team. But I'm looking forward to next season. I think there's so many elements that you're like, oh, this could be interesting.
Yeah, definitely.
What do you think about the new? I don't know why we suddenly ended up talking about F1. Why not? About the new cars. Do you think we'll get? I think it's going to throw things up in the air quite a bit.
Yeah, a rule shake-up is always good. I mean, 2009, obviously Brawn won because they were the only ones that saw the viability of the double diffuser. And I think hopefully we'll get something like that this year. I mean, for us on Scalextric, it's great because it was an opportunity to retool our Formula One cars and launch afresh with some new stuff, hopefully next year. But any rule change is great. Just hope that there's reliability, and we hope it gives a few unexpected things. And if we get to, I think it's somewhere in the middle, isn't it? It's Abu Dhabi, the first race, isn't it, or Bahrain, something like that. If we get there and Mercedes qualify 1-2 about 4 seconds ahead of everybody, I think I'm going to be pretty disappointed. If it's Ferrari, that's fine. But I don't want anybody, I've always said I would rather it was a close race and the person I didn't want to win won than I sit on a sofa for 2 hours on a Sunday wasting that time because it's a foregone conclusion for the moment. I like to go out that so-and-so is going to win.
Yeah, ultimately, we're there.
That's what drives our fans.
You want to watch racing. You don't want to watch just a lap sort of just a couple of people doing a little train.
And I, it's all very well and good at being a sort of highbrow strategy thing, but really you don't want crashes, but you want overtaking, and you want action, and you want that element of competition.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's interesting. Bring it back to Scalextric, when they're taking one of these cars, let's say next season's F1 car, if you're working with one of the teams, etc., how do you convert the car into a model? Do they get scanned?
So
How does it work?
So with the modern Formula One car, we will ask the team for CAD. So they will supply us the exterior CAD, and we'll base it from that. And that's the same with GT3 and anything modern, really, most manufacturers. For anything classic, we will go and 3D scan a real car. So we just released this year a Cobra and a Mustang, a pre-66 Cobra Mustang. And we went down to Bill Shepherd's Mustang down in South London. Absolutely amazing place. We scanned a real pre-66 Mustang. He races at Goodwood, and his green Cobra that he races with Romain Dumas at Goodwood. So we'll go and scan the real cars. We used to use drawings and the bits and pieces like that, but we really want to make the cars as accurate as we can these days. So we do tend to use 3D scanning, which is a great help. Gives us all the exterior detail we need, and then we just put bits and pieces on the inside, and then off you go.
And does that get scanned with like one of those hand things?
It uses one on an arm. Yeah, it's quite a big unit, and it has a sort of crane that comes across, and you go along each surface as if you're washing it, but you don't touch it.
Yeah. Okay. That's pretty interesting. So with the F1, if an F1 team is sending you the CAD model for the exterior of the car, presumably, let's say you're going to get the 2022 whatever something, and do they send you do you get the like actual 100% detail external, and they're like, you do not tell anyone else about this?
Yeah, so we tend to get most of it. Yeah, they may well cut out bits of the underfloor and stuff, which is the secret bits you can't see anyway, which we don't need, because obviously we've got the underside of the car. It's not going to be as accurate because you've got our motor gubbins in there. But yeah, we do. But obviously, if any Formula One teams are listening to this and thinking, right, I'm not sending them any CAD, we do sign some pretty hefty legal documents to say that we'll keep it secure, and we wouldn't do that. Well, with the screw the vehicle, but no, we wouldn't do that. We would keep it obviously to ourselves, and that's it.
That's quite fun. That's quite fun getting
some
that.
Some of the teams here that work on defence projects or Airfix and stuff like that get sent some pretty juicy stuff via CAD that they're not meant to be sent. I think back on my day on that, we were told you're not going to get the full CAD suite for a certain aircraft, and we definitely did, and there's definitely stuff in there we shouldn't have seen.
That's very cool.
Yeah,
I saw yesterday. I think this is a rumor. I'm sorry. Apologies if this is absolutely incorrect. There was at the Autocar, I think it was the Autocar Awards or something this year. Autosport, sorry. There was a Mercedes factory tour up for auction.
Yeah, and Christian Horner won it on the auction.
Christian Horner bought it.
Yeah, I think that's great. Hope he does it. Hope they let him in as well.
I know there's so many memes of like him turning up for the tour. Like, just absolute move. Have you been around one of the F1 teams setups?
I've been to McLaren and Williams, yeah. McLaren's Williams' place is called up Grove, but McLaren at their technology centre is awesome. They have a sort of boulevard of their historic cars, of the lake out the front, and all the manufacturing bits there. It is a really incredible site. I've been to McLaren
to look around the road car stuff, and absolutely. Just the way they've set it up, where you drive around the lake, like it's just this. Yes, I'm arriving at McLaren.
You see, we don't get to drive around the lake. We have to park in the car park and walk through the tunnel. So you're obviously more highly regarded than we are, because we do not get to drive around the lake.
Well, I was doing a photo shoot on the drive. But even then, I think we messed around for a little bit, and they were like, it's been someone in their office has decided that you guys you're taking up this lake space, like bugger off. Like, okay, fine, we've been here for too long.
Have you ever read Adrian Newey's autobiography?
Yes.
Yeah, he says that when they built it, he used to annoy Ron Dennis by refusing to use the car park, parking the street away, walking across the field, ran into the lake and into his office because it was quicker. I thought that was great.
That was a really good book, actually.
It is. It's fantastic, that book.
Not too nerdy, but pretty good.
Yeah, we should have come out last year. We had a few delays on it. Coming out this year, we've got his Jaguar E-Type that he shared with Martin Brundle at Goodwood.
Oh, nice.
Complete with ball down the side of it. So it's been a real pleasure to speak to Mr. Newey about that, and to have him on board with the Scalextric project.
That's so cool. That's not something I really thought would necessarily happen about these cars. Yeah, you get to meet the owners, or the people responsible for the cars that you're scanning and whatnot. That's quite cool. Who's been the most interesting person you've met through?
Oh, Derek Bell. Derek Bell. I mean, I don't know what age demographic or listeners mainly are, but Derek Bell is still a racing driver. But he won Le Mans in 75, and then he won it 3 more times in the early 80s as well. He drove a Mirage, he drove the Porsche 917 in the early 1970s. He raced, did a couple of Formula One races as well. Mainly grew to fame doing Le Mans, Porsche 956s, 962s. Raced right up until the mid 90s in the McLaren F1 GTR, and he's just a lovely, lovely man who has just got stories for hours and hours, and he is fascinating. And I went to a garage recently with a 3-litre RSR Porsche 1974 car, and they told me that the day before a few weeks before they'd been doing some testing with it at Goodwood with Derek driving it, and it was just a track day, and he'd been driving, it was a proper race car this, he'd been driving the absolute backside off of it. And every time he came to the pits, a different marshal would come over to tell him basically calm it down a little bit, because he was just, wasn't overtaking within the rules and really going for it. And every time I'd see it was Derek in the car and going, "Oh, okay, Mr. Bell, don't worry," and sort of toss it off again. It was another set of rules for him, and he was great. He managed to squeeze me in a busy day and gave me sort of an allotted half hour to do a quick chat and interview with him. I think we were there for about an hour and a half. I'm pretty sure he was late for his flight. I went down in my sort of track day car rather than using my normal car, and we had a 10-minute chat about that afterwards, and he was going to take me out in it before his wife dragged him back inside to pack for their trip away. He was just one of those guys that he lives and breathes cars and driving, and he's just a lovely bloke. But in motorsport, I'm yet to meet somebody actually who isn't enthusiastic about it and loves it. And it wasn't through work, but I managed to meet Alex Zanardi a few years ago at Brands Hatch when he raced there as well, and he's a sort of personal sort of hero of mine, and that was amazing as well. And I'm sure you find it, 99.9% of people in motorsport are great to talk to, and if you go talk to them about cars, then they're more than happy to
they light
talk to you
up
about it.
Derek, I met him once for a minute. He was with someone I know really well, and they were just walking past. I was at Spa, and they just walked past me, and I was saying hello to my friend. And I think Derek was doing a driving tour or something. He was, part of it, and it struck me as one of those people that was just so nice, so friendly, so enthusiastic, and like really involved in like what he was doing. He was really like, he could have just been like, I'm doing this driving tour, I get paid, but like, it's all right.
He takes an interest in what you're bringing to him with it as well, which is really nice. And most drivers do, 99% of drivers do. But I think just because Derek is, that era of motorsport I've grown up watching, the guy had filmed some of the driving sequences in the Le Mans film, Steve McQueen, for crying out loud. What more do you need? He raced all those amazing Golf prototypes. He raced the Rothmans 962 and 956s at Le Mans. He won in them. And he raced the McLaren F1 GTR. He is just great. Yeah, absolutely great.
Super, super, super cool. No, very, very interesting. All those people. So you have a track day car. What do you have?
I have it was actually my only car for the time, which because my missus nicked the other one when she had to drive to her job. But it's only a 1993 Mark 1 MX. Well, it's a Unos, not an MX-5.
Yeah. But
it's had quite a lot of engine work done to it, and a lot of restoration done on the bodywork recently, because obviously it was rotten.
Yeah.
Because they're all rotten. If anyone tells you they've got an MX-5 without any rust on it, they're just not looking hard enough. So I've got that. I've just sort of stuck it on my parents' drive because it's just getting too much with it. It's it's not very standard. It's a bit uncomfortable. It's very hot. It's very noisy, and it's just when you go away in business and you have to leave your terraced house at 6 a.m, the neighbours do not appreciate it. So I've had to switch it out to something a bit different.
Do you get out in that much at the moment? Have you been doing any track days or much track days?
You know what? I haven't done any since before COVID, because it's one of those stupid things where you buy a track day car and you rebuild the engine and you rebuild this and you rebuild the bodywork and you have the wheels done and you think, I don't really fancy covering this in gravel. I might have to buy another track day car. So it's become a bit of a Sunday afternoon pub car. That's what it's going to be now. It's going to be a Sunday. Go to Brands Hatch in it, go to motorsport events in it, use the diesel Merc of the sport for work.
Yeah.
And then I'm hoping to buy something else. I've got another, it sounds silly, but I've got another MX-5, a Mark 1 UK car with like low miles, and that one really is almost rust free.
Okay, yeah.
It needs a new front wing, and that's about it. I'm going to sell that and then use the garage space to get something properly classic. I can an Anglia or something like that. So a proper classic. I do sort of track days and that as well.
That would be quite fun. I've done a lot of track days in grippy stuff, and I've not really done any track days in something that's got small skinny tires. You want to come join us on? You want to come join us in the slow lane, mate? It's it's much more enjoyable doing it. You lot all stream past me in your Porsches. The feeling I get when I do one of you guys on the braking because my brakes are gone into Druids or something. That's worth its weight in gold. That is absolutely. I totally agree. Like driving something slower. So I did a bit of racing in the Citroen C1 series, and we've done some test days. We did a test day at Silverstone in a Citroen C1, and you're overtaking. I know it's a race car, but it's still a C1. It's got like 70 horsepower or something, and you mob past someone in a 911 or something. You're like, oh, come on, guys. Like, seriously?
I remember I did a track day at Brands, and there was a guy, and he was absolutely brand new. He'd obviously just collected from the dealership 911 Turbo, and he was obviously in a straight line. He was monstrous, but corners, he was so slow. And, this is when my Mazda 20 worth about 800 quid. Yeah. So, lift off, brake for paddock, turn it in, shock it out the curb, and just let it slide over to the outside. And he was just getting in everybody's way. And eventually, me and a couple of other guys in Mazda did him around the outside. He was just so slow on the apex. That fear afterwards of like, right, yeah, let's go. Because it's just such a win for the little guy almost nipping past someone like that. But,
it is. And I think it's tricky because everyone at some point hadn't picked up some driving skills. But I do find it funny that people that have got like zero, not everybody in a 911 turbo can't drive. That's not the case. But you occasionally see on track days someone in something really quite expensive. And maybe it's because it's really expensive, they're just kind of pootling around. But often, they're on the wrong side of the track coming up to the corner and those sorts of things. And you're like, why don't you buy something that costs, I don't know, less, maybe the price of your tyres, and drive that until the wheels fall off and go in the gravel and make all the mistakes. And then when you come back to drive your fast car, you'll have a lot more fun, and also you won't get all these people rinsing you.
This is what I don't understand. People spend a huge amount of money on these track day cars, and same with racing actually. And I say to them, "Oh, you got an instructor?" Well, no.
Yeah, what's that?
That's just crazy, isn't it? I do. Excuse me. Sorry, I do most of my track days at Brands Hatch. Even if I haven't been there now for a little while, so I'll definitely do it next time I go. But even if I've been regularly, I'll book a short amount of time with an instructor to remind me of what the line is, where I'm going, how I can go quicker. It's tyres are very, very important, but rather than fitting aero bits and all this sort of bits and pieces to your car, just book time with a professional.
Yeah.
That is the best way to go quicker. And these guys whose very, very expensive cars I see going out lap after lap after lap and not seemingly getting any quicker. If they're enjoying themselves, that's great. Keeping out of everyone's way, that's great. I can't talk because, I'm not the quickest guy in the world and I do keep out of everyone's way, but just book some seat time with someone next to you. It's worth its weight in gold. It really is.
And you do have more fun. I firmly believe the better you get as a driver and the more instruction you have and the further down the journey you get, you feel more comfortable driving faster, pushing faster, and overtaking people is more fun than being overtaken. And the bigger the performance difference between the cars, the more fun it is to overtake. So if you turn up on a track day and you're in the fastest car, you're setting yourself up to fail. Because you're only losing. Like no one comes in, but like I have a Radical as well.
Well, I was about to say, a friend of mine bought a Radical, and he couldn't understand why on a track day he wasn't going as quick as he thought he was. And, I'll be much quicker than my old Porsche. He was no slow driver. It's because he hadn't had that instruction for him to trust that aeromechanical grip. Once you get to a certain speed, it will grip. You've just got to trust it. And he just wasn't quite getting there. When he eventually had some instruction at Donington, I think it was, he came away and said that was the best day ever.
Yeah.
Because a chap had shown him in the morning how to drive the thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then when you go to historic stuff, it's even more important because they handle in a completely different way. Anyone that does historic motorsport wants to get into that, or it's an historic car, they want to take track days. Look at the grid at Goodwood, find the people at the front and see if they'll give you a bit of tuition.
Yeah.
If I ever do get an older car for track days, I don't know how much I have to pay him for this, but I want to give Andy Jordan a call and say, look, come show me how to drive this. It doesn't have any grip or any brakes. How do I get around here?
They're like, don't worry about that. We'll work it out. And then they just bung it in.
Yeah.
I did a passenger lap with a guy called Ollie Bryant. You might have come across him at some classic races. He often races for Historica in the 2 litre cup in a 911. And he'd just taken delivery of, he has one of them now. And he took me out for some laps. And I've always found there's someone that's really fast. When you watch, there's two styles of, I would say, classic car driving. There's like super, super Larry. And then there's really neat, but still, you've got to have a certain amount of slip that is fast, but there's neat. And they can both be relatively similar in pace. Yeah. But when you go with someone that's the super, super smooth, and you go around the track and you're like, that didn't feel that fast.
And that's how you know it was really quick.
That's when you know it's really fast.
Smoothness of it, yeah. And unfortunately, I lack that smoothness, which is why I'm crap at go-karting.
Yeah, I've done, I would say, minimal go-karting, some, but like lots more track driving and training and stuff like that. And it's just, I think there's just stuff about karts that I don't understand as well. Like, yeah, I can understand the basics.
I don't think you have this issue, but those of us that are partial to a couple of sandwiches at lunchtime are at immediate disadvantage with a go-kart. I did a bit of go-kart racing years ago, and the worst thing is you turn up for sort of arrive and kart event, and a little 16-year-old, 15 or 14-year-old lad walks in or girl with all the gear, and you think, oh, I'm going to get absolutely demolished here. Like, you weigh about 4 stone. And you've probably been doing this since you're about 5, so I've got no chance.
That definitely makes a difference. Unfortunately, I've done some karting with Joe Achilles. Have you come across him? So he does a lot of BMW videos, YouTuber and stuff. And we went karting, and he's done a lot of karting, but he's huge. He's like, I don't know, 6'4", 3", something like that, and like pretty big, solid.
So it looks like Bowser of Mario Kart.
Yeah, not quite. I'd say he's had a few less sandwiches, but he must weigh 4 stone more than me or something ridiculous like that. And he is so much faster in a kart. And you're like,
no excuse.
Fuck.
If he's carrying success ballast and he's quicker, then that's no excuse.
That's it. You wipe all the excuses off. It's like you go to a track day and you're like, oh, yeah, no, it's because of my car or my tyres or whatever. Yeah. And you get a pro to drive and they knock 15 seconds off your lap time. You're like, okay.
That goes back to our point earlier, though, that get a pro alongside you so you can show you how to do it.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, all right.
It says at the top of my thing, upload paused, by the way. Is that still?
Yeah, I paused it. I have the option to sort of start and pause it. And I figured if we pause it, then the connection might be a bit better because it's not trying to upload at the same time.
It's much better.
And I'll
even on the laptop it was struggling, so this is working fine now for me. So this is much better. Yeah. Okay, cool. As long as it's working, right?
Yeah. And I'll resume it when we've finished, and then you'll have to leave it open or whatnot. So I normally wrap this up with 5 questions. Are you ready?
Cool.
Do you have a most memorable driving trip or journey?
Yes, my partner and I, now my fiance actually, we'll get this right in case she won't. We took my old MX-5 we live in Kent, down to the Dordogne for a week in August.
Nice.
And didn't have air conditioning, couldn't have the roof down on the motorway because we piled stuff up behind the seats. And it was a slow trip, it was a slow little car. It's only at 1.8, no ABS. It's not like the modern one, the other one I've got now, which is like straight through exhaust, different cams and spits flame out the back. This is a proper dad MX-5 sort of thing. And we took that down there. I've always wanted to do it. I always wanted to go to the south of France, my own little 2-seat sports car. And it was that, it's not, I've done plenty of trips where I've been herring around tracks and stuff like that, but it was that because it was the joy of motoring. It was that freedom, just the two of us, roof down, driving around the Dordogne place I used to visit as a kid with my family in the back of Dad's non-air conditioned Saab or Ford Granada. It was proper, just enjoyable stuff, trying to fit all the stuff in the boot, trying to work out how much fuel I had to get to the next place. Yeah, that was by far my best holiday I've ever been on, because it took the car, and that's why I've kept that Mazda for so many years, because it has those sentimental memories. We've got to get rid of it now, but it's it would definitely be that.
It's an absolutely recurring theme amongst guests that I've asked this question to, and often people, I've got some guests that have had they've got insane cars, and loads of people like nice cars or access to or whatever.
Yeah.
And everyone, when you ask them that question, it's always the person, like the people you're with, this sort of journey and funny shit that happens along the way. And then the car is like part of it because it enables the transport, but like it's not a massive part of it. Like it is, I mean, but like what it is doesn't matter that much.
You say funny stuff on the way. On the way down, I said to my partner, so we had the sat nav, but I was like, I don't want to go through Paris. Let's try and find a ring road down the outside. Let's do something. The sat nav will try and take us through Paris. I'm on the wrong side of the road. It's very hot. I'm hot. Car's hot. Don't like this. We get to near Paris, and she's like, no, follow this. No, it's going the right way. It's going the right way. And then we get into Paris. I'm like, hang on a minute. No, this is central Paris. Like, this is the ring road around central Paris through the tunnels, and it's really busy and it's really hot. And it's like, one job. But then when we were down there, on those country roads, which are really lovely paved and just nice. There's all little villages you're going through. It's just great. I mean, I always enjoy the drive to Goodwood as well in my other Mazda, because I stay down there, get to Goodwood sort of 7 o'clock, so leave the accommodation just after 6. Beautiful summer's morning, roof down, the thing popping and banging its way through the trees and stuff. It's great, but you're by yourself, so it's not quite as enjoyable. It's
so nice that convertible thing. I don't currently have a convertible. I haven't had one for a while, but I kind of have forgotten that how much extra you get from having the roof off, just like driving through trees, and you get all the rustles and all that stuff. You're so much more involved.
The only problem is, of course, when you're driving home from work and you're hungry, you put up outside a chippy or a takeaway and you get the smells, which isn't quite so good.
Yeah. No, that sounds like a good one. If you could only drive one car for the rest of your life, unlimited value. I need to rephrase how I say this, because I make it different every time. You got one car, unlimited value, and then you have £500 for something else. So you have two cars, one's £500 and one's unlimited.
So I think the unlimited value one, that's quite a hard question, isn't it, actually? Because it's, for me, of course, I like performance cars, but at the same time I do a huge amount of mileage. So it's got to be something I can get. I think I'd have to be quite boring almost and just say like a quick German saloon, because it's all very well and good me saying I have a Lotus Carlton, which is the obvious thing that pops into my head, but that is not, as long as the unlimited value also counts for unlimited servicing.
I think it includes that.
Okay, in that case, either a Lotus Carlton or it's got to be a Lotus Carlton, just because I think that will eat the motorways up. And it's still an absolute bruiser. You don't see many of them. I think I'll go for something like that. And I'll change my mind tomorrow, but something like that. And for 500 quid, I'm going to go for an MOT failure Mazda, please, because you can still get it for 500 quid. It's going to be rusted all the way through, but I can put a tow hook on the back of the Lotus Carlton and then tow it to a race circuit and do some track days in it. So
sounds like a good duo, that. I like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
What do you think is the most undervalued car at the moment? Considering the current second-hand market, it's tricky, but
nothing is undervalued at the moment. Everything is ridiculously expensive and overpriced. Undervalued, a Ford Puma, the original one, not the 4x4. I think if you drive a properly sorted Ford Puma, that is one of the best front-wheel drive chassis ever built. The little 1.7 Yamaha engine is cracking. They're all really light because there's no metal left in them. It's all rusted through. So there's a lightweight front-wheel drive sports car. I'd say something like that.
Nice.
Definitely.
Nice. Okay. What's the most interesting car to you at the moment? What are you Googling, looking up?
I just got to be bit careful with that, because I could give away what we're working on here. But if we were talking about sort of what's my sort of most Googled fascination car at the moment, I'm really into my 70s Porsches at the moment. So it's the RS, Carrera RS, the RSR, and especially the ones done by the Kramer brothers, because they took bits and did other bits to it. So the 935 K79s and K80s that they did. So that sort of 70s Porsche stuff is really capturing my attention at the moment. We have got one of those in the range, actually, so it's quite lucky I can sort of link it to work. But, something like that.
I love that shit. Love it. That era of Porsche.
Most Googled, of course, is why my Mercedes C220 CDI isn't quite getting up to temperature, but I think it's a thermostat. So that's the most Googled thing at the moment. And in fact, there's a new thermostat on it. Fair enough.
No, I like that. Yeah, that era of Porsches, I'm a massive Porsche fan. And I think as...
I'm a big no replacement for displacement sort of fan.
Okay.
And I'm not a turbo person. The Mazda, the Unos that I'm modifying up, that will not get a turbo. It's going to get throttle bodies. I think turbo's cheating. It's kind of boring, isn't it? Why do you want to drive a hairdryer? No, it's the best engine, in my opinion, one of the best engines ever done is the K20 that you get in the Civic Type R's. That sort of, I want to scream to 11,000 RPM. That's what an engine to do. I don't want it just to whoosh a load of torque and then I've got to
I wonder
up.
if we're going to start seeing that coming back. I had rumours that the Porsche, the 911 is going to get, it's just a rumour, but they made a new engine for the Boxster and Cayman, a 4 litre 6, and it's rumoured that might come back. And I think, hopefully, I sort of thought maybe with hybrid, these rules that are coming in, we might see more NA hybrid engines rather than turbo hybrid.
Yeah, it would be nice. For me, I think when you get those little 1.6 sort of Ford EcoBoost turbos, for instance, there's a lot of stress on a small engine there, and I just wonder over time how that's going to, for the second-hand car buyers, are they going to be able to afford to keep those going? I mean, already we're seeing those early 2000s M5s and things like that, those sort of high-end performance stuff from that period is a real struggle with electrics to keep going. And as we put more and more electronic components into modern cars, will there be as many left going in the future for classic owners and second-hand owners?
Yeah, and the whole fuel economy thing that turbocharged cars get better fuel economy. Anyone that's owned a turbocharged car knows that they don't get better fuel economy.
No, not if you're enjoying it, you don't. No,
not in the slightest.
No.
I've never owned an NA car that got remotely close to single digit. I've not owned something with massive engine, but single digit MPG figures. Whereas pretty much any turbocharged car. Was that?
I had an E36. I had an E36 M3 Evo that was not standard, the engine wise, and that. Well, I used to get 1011 out of it.
Okay.
Which is not bad going. The Mazda does 19, which is fairly crap for a Mark 1 MX-5. Let's be honest.
And is that
most of it goes in flames at the back?
And is that driving semi-sensibly, or is that driving?
No, that's driving like an absolute nutter. No, that is, well. For any police officer that listen, that is driving spiritedly within the rules of the road.
Yeah, and it's a Mazda, so you can't be getting that fast.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. Even top flat out in fifth, I'm not even exceeding 70. So yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, easy. There's a lot for that. There's a lot for being able to keep your foot in it, and it's still not going that fast.
Yeah,
it
feels
much
fast. More satisfying. Yeah, it's much more. Yeah, feeling fast is better than actually going fast, and that's why I did have clear cups, M3s, other turbo VAG stuff like that. And that's why I love the Mazdas so much, because do you know what? I can drive it spiritedly and enjoy it. And A, I'm not going to have a massive accident. I'm not going quick enough.
Yeah.
And B, I'm not driving without the regulations of the road.
Yeah, totally. Right, final question. 5-car garage, unlimited value.
I mean, this is like asking what's your three favourite films, or what's your 2 best pets ever. It's a very tricky one. But I think we have to. There has to be an F40 in it. Has to be an F40 because that is the first car I had as a big model.
Yeah.
And it has to be an LM.
Yeah.
So it has to be in red in this instance. I prefer F40s in different colour to reds, but we'll go for red on this one.
Yeah.
It's going to have gold split BBS rims.
Nice.
That's going to be a feature, by the way, of this entire list. Gold wheels. So that's got to be in there. 2 points. I think I've got to have a 2.7 RS Carrera.
Interesting.
I'm not that fussed on the colour. Or it could be we'll go for a Singer. We'll go for a Singer because I need a bit of comfort.
Yeah, you've got a radio and whatnot.
I want a digital radio so I can listen to TalkSport as I'm driving along the motorway. Yeah. Nice leather interior. That can be comfy.
Yeah.
So there's 2. I need something. The Lotus Carlton can be in there.
Yeah.
That's 3, definitely. And then the other 2, I think we need to go racing. So other 2.
What series?
Number 4, well, it's got to be classic. So number 4 will be a Ferrari 330 LMB because they are quicker than a GTO, they are rarer than a GTO, and they are prettier than a GTO. So I want an original 330 LMB. Thank you very much.
Interesting. I'm not.
It's
did
a
someone
lovely
do
thing.
a
Slightly
video
longer.
about these? Did Carfection or someone do a video about these recently?
Sport
Top
Classic.
Gear.
I don't know if you've spoken to them, but they're a great bunch of guys. They make a sort of continuation type thing of it.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Obviously, for an unlimited car garage, I'll have one of the original. I think 5 of them made in period.
Oh yeah, this is cool. Good choice.
It's an absolutely stunning car, and I would have it not at full Goodwood spec. And I wouldn't have it so it's going to win the RSE TT celebration, I'd have it so it can race, but I can go to the pub in it and leave it at the pub. And do that sort of thing, and I would use it. And I would use it as often as I possibly could, because if you own a car like that, and I know many owners do, I know there's a chap up in the Midlands with a 250 short wheelbase who collects his kids from school in it.
Nice.
It's use that car, because as people like me who just will never ever have the means to own something like that, when you see one on the road, it brightens your whole day.
Yeah.
I remember an absolutely awful journey back from surfing once. I pulled up next to an NSX Type R in a petrol station, and he was like, I can't believe I'm using it today. And I was like, well, I'm glad you are.
Yeah.
I'm really hungover and I want to be sick. And seeing that, I feel much better about my journey.
That is so true. Like, if you are lucky enough to be able to, for whatever reason, have some of these cars, it's there are other people. So I had an F40 for a bit. I don't know whether you know that.
It was blue, wasn't it?
It was blue, yeah. And
you can see that around. It was a cool choice.
The times, like most times you took it out, someone at some point would come up to you, or they've taken a photo and then they send it to you or whatever. And they're like, I've never seen one. I've never seen one in the flesh. Like, oh my God, you might be at a petrol station or whatever. And then you're like, okay, cool. I'll give it a bit of beans on the way out of the petrol station. And it's like straight pipes, makes all the noises or whatever. And you can just see their face just like light up, like, oh, this is so cool.
Absolutely. Yeah. Seeing something like that is, if you look at cars as art, instead of looking at them as just a white good from getting them from A to B, if you look at them as a bit of art, a bit of automotive sculpture, it's like, walking around a footpath somewhere and coming across a amazing sculpture, Anthony Gormley sculpture or something like that. You don't expect it. You expect to see Kias and Hyundais and 320Ds and Ford Focuses and stuff like that, and all of a sudden you see an F40 or I saw an original Cobra out the other day on the road, which the guy looked absolutely freezing. But, it's just the best thing. And I've got one more space in the garage, haven't I?
You do.
And there's about 7 or 8 things going around in my head. So I think it's got to be another racing car.
Okay.
And I think at this point, actually, there's 3 in my head that are sort of going around which ones I like best. And I think it's got to be a BMW 3.5 litre CSL.
Oh,
The Batmobile. And I think it's got to be as well that it's not that. This is very, very nerdy, and I apologise for your listeners. It's not the later version with the big wide arches and the big rear wing on the back. It's a slightly earlier version of the 73, 74 cars that raced at Spa and things like that. That's the one I want. John Danby Racing, I think, have got one at the moment there, which Jake Hill tests a lot, and that sort of livery.
Interesting.
Is what I like. Yeah.
Nice. And then that that looks like great racing in those cars.
Yeah. Again, it's eligible. Like I can do in the CSL. You could do Club Motorsport if you really wanted to do race something like that in Club Motorsport, or I could go right up to actually racing at Le Mans Classic, because they're eligible for that as well. So it's got that great thing. It's normally aspirated, as I think, not all the list is, but it's But yeah, so much in my head. There's so much. There's no Mark 1 Escort on that list at the moment, which is just not right at all. There's no minis. I grew up driving minis, so there should really be minis on the list. There's no space frame specials, no single seaters. It's
tricky.
Yeah, people say, like, if you won the Euro Millions, what would you do with that kind of money? And I'm like, 1 edition of Octane and 1 edition of Classic and Sports Car. Give me a phone, give me 10 minutes, and it's gone. Like, honestly,
it's
Alfa Romeo. Not even Alfa Romeo. There's no GTA. There's no Giulias in there. It's but no modern stuff either.
It is insane how, if you say, like, I think someone won the Euro Millions last week and won like 110 million.
109 million on Friday.
And you're like, if you wanted to suddenly, it's actually mad if you went, okay, you could go and buy a bunch of cars. Like, you could, and you wouldn't, you could just literally in a 5-car garage, probably, that money gone.
I could. Yeah, quite easily. I mean, it is, it's another world, isn't it, really? But I mean, the thing is, I'm happy just with the Mercedes and the Mazda at the moment. I've got the comfy car, and then I've got the uncomfortable, horrible one for enjoying myself in. And as long as you have something, I think, that gives you a smile on your face once or twice a year when it's actually working, I think that's all that matters.
Absolutely. And I've been lucky enough to own some pretty mad cars. And at the moment, I've sold most stuff. And I've realised the enjoyment for me is having a car, one that I like, but also that I will use it's got to be what car I'm going to use, and also that I'm not that worried about. Whatever that, everyone has that value for them. Yeah. Whether it's £500 or 50 million if you're a bazillionaire, whatever it is. But if you're not comfortable using it, or you're like kind of worried about it, you don't have as much fun.
Yeah, and I find that. So with I live at sort of terrace streets in the local town called Faversham, and with the Mazda, when I had all the bodywork resprayed, I had every single panel either resprayed or replaced if it was rust was too far gone on it. And then I had to park it on the street where everyone parks. Yeah, and I've got a set, or I did have a set of Watanabe 3-piece split rims on it, which had coloured gold. And I thought, I don't have any locking wheel nuts on those.
Yeah.
So I had to rush out and buy a set of locking wheel nuts, because I was like, those wheels are really quite valuable. And yeah, it's, whereas my missus has got, I just bought a little Fiat Panda 100 HP a few years ago, just a little run around, and I've given it to her to use. She's a teacher, goes off to teach to the schools in it. And that, I don't care where it gets left. Like, she can park that wherever she wants, and she often does park it wherever she wants, because of the amount of tickets. So, it's quite liberating to have a car you don't care about. But I think if I had the sort of money to afford a 330 LMB, then I would treat it like that. Because what's someone going to do to someone could scratch it, someone could key it, and it would annoy me. Someone could bump to the back of it, whatever. But end of the day, it's only a bit of metal, isn't it? So, it is. And
actually, because I always used to think like Goodwood and stuff like that, when you see these cars racing around, you're like, and they always say, this grid is worth 300 million. And you're like, well, if they were all real, maybe it would. But ignoring that fact, even the replicas are exceptionally expensive nowadays. That if you've got a car let's say it's worth, I don't know, 5 million or something, or 10 million or 20 million, it's a short wheelbase competition or something. The actual car part of that, it's still just metal and bits and paint and whatnot. And if you dent it, you take it to a body shop, you probably take it to a good, like a, high-end body shop, and they will get the dent out, cover it up, and it might cost you whatever, like $1,000 or a couple of grand or whatever to fix it. It's not, oh shit, I've just smashed in 5 million.
Yeah. I mean, there are some cars out there which are on the original body panels, and I get that, but at the same time, you get the Lintner E-Type that's back out now that had an absolutely horrific crash at Reims, I think it was, and it completely destroyed the car, and now it's back. And you think, well, there wasn't a straight panel on that, there wasn't a straight bit of chassis on it either. So it's, you've got to go out there and enjoy them and use them. And what's the point? And I don't actually like visiting car museums, because I think the car museum is just too static. I want to see the cars being used, I want to hear them, and that's what it's all about. And you have a car and lock it up in your garage, like some of the guys in the Middle East do, the Sultans and stuff, where there's like F1 GTRs in every single colour. But that's great, but if only you know about it, that's kind of weird. Like,
and if they don't move,
use them.
They don't get used.
Yeah. What's the point?
It's pretty sad.
I get that with art, because but automotive art is different. These cars are visceral, they move, they're living. So
and I understand people that don't drive stuff. I actually get if it's an investment side of it. Personally, it doesn't sit that well with me. Maybe just it's to do with space. If I had loads more space, and I was like, I think that's a great investment, but it's a great investment if I don't drive it, I could probably have it in the garage and not drive it. But I look at cars and I have to drive them. And if they don't get driven, I have to get rid of them.
That's the difference, I think. I think if you're a car person through and through, then you can't help yourself but drive it.
Yeah.
Because that's what it's there for. That's why you've got it. I think if you're an investment person, do us a favour and buy diamonds and houses. And maybe the rest of us will keep on playing with cars. But as I said earlier, the price of second-hand cars at the moment has gone absolutely mental. So I think more and more people are buying them for investment. And
the move that I've heard of people doing, and I know of people doing, is when they buy two. Like they really think it's going to go up, and they buy two. And one. Well,
I know someone did that with those Yaris, those new Yaris things.
Oh, okay,
whatever it is, Yaris. He bought two, and he sold them both on straight away. Put his name down for another one with one, and the other one he's made sort of $8-9 grand profit on it.
Nice.
It's like, okay, great. I went and inquired about one, and I was told, it's going to be like early next year if we can get one. Like, all right, cheers. But it's a crazy world out there. But I mean, I don't know. I'm surprised you didn't ask any questions like, question for you then, what's the most overrated car? You asked underrated.
What's the most overrated?
What don't you get?
All modern turboed cars. Not like that, but like high end, high, big value turbocharged cars. Because I think they don't deliver the old school turboness, which was kind of fun. And also certain engines, old turbocharged engines, still kind of sounded good. The sort of modern, whatever, like a, I don't know, 488 or a take it up a notch, whatever, that sort of stuff. I just don't get it now. Like, no. I admittedly, I've not driven a 488 with like everything off, and I imagine that's quite an experience. But it gives me no fizz. I get no fizz from any of those cars. And I know they probably wouldn't choose to make turbocharged cars if the regulations didn't sort of mess with them. But I get nothing. I get absolutely nothing from all of those cars. And give me something NA.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or older, and it can be... I really fancy an old 911 turbo or something like that.
Yeah, that's that's something to properly focus your mind. You can't relax on that when you're pushing on, like a 993 turbo or a 964 turbo, something like that. Yeah, I think that's a
bit leery. Like I want
a 964 turbo on my list really, but it's something like that is definitely up my. There's space for turbos, and that's all at once, a lot of boost rather than more.
Yeah, and like the F40 was very much like that. It was quite a fun car to drive. It like lots of boost and would light up the rears. It's got to have enough boost that traction becomes an issue. If traction isn't an issue, then like, so what? Like you're just going fast, and I'm very much not that on a road. Doesn't matter.
Like, so fast you can go. Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly. I want to be going flat out and not be doing 200 miles an hour.
Yeah, no, I get that.
But yeah, what do you think? What do you think is the most overrated car at the moment, or type of car?
I don't care how fast your Range Rover is. I still hate it. All right. And don't get me wrong. If I lived on an estate, if I win the Euro Millions, I'm buying a Range Rover. I'm buying a Range Rover with a nice high suspension range on it, something like that. If you're going out and you're buying that Ferrari SUV, look at yourself in the mirror every morning and think, as a child, did you really need to grow up and be this person? I just don't get it. If you want a big car and you want to go quickly, get a Audi S6 estate. Yeah. Get an S8, a Bentley Saloon, not the Bentayga, because that is something else in terms of looks. Because those of us that drive little cars, by the way, that then you come up behind us really quickly on the motorway, all I can see is your number plate, and frankly, it's terrifying. If you hit me, I'm going to die. And I don't like that. The rest of us shouldn't have to drive around in cages because you drive 500 brake horsepower, 5-ton monsters that are completely just unnecessary. And I wouldn't, if you want to buy them, absolutely, that's great. But, that and Golf R's, not a fan of golf. It's golf.
I think
I like it sound good. And
for me, there's a caveat on some of those high horsepower SUVs. Now, it wouldn't be, I'm not an SUV person really. I quite fancy a Range Rover or something at some point because they're really comfy and they're really isolating. Absolutely. But I would rather have an S-Class estate. Genuinely, if they made an S-Class estate, I would rather have that over any Range Rover because it's actually comfier and it handles and it goes around a corner. You don't feel like you're going to fall over and all of that sort of stuff. But the Ferrari V12 SUV, I think a bit silly, but I understand having the Ferrari one if it has the V12 NA engine in it. If it has to be an SUV, because that engine sounds amazing. If it's a turbo V8 and it's got 707 horsepower or whatever from another manufacturer that's coming out recently, so what? I don't care that your SUV does 0 to 60 in 3 point whatever seconds. It's still a boat. Yeah.
Terrifying is that though. That SUV does 0 to 60 in 3 seconds. Considering the size, how quickly therefore you could get yourself into serious.
Yeah.
I know they've got big brakes on them. They won't stop that quickly. And it's just a bit, I don't know. It just, if you look at something and think, it doesn't make an amazing feat of engineering. Don't get me wrong. If any manufacturers listen to this, what you're doing is incredible. And that Porsche, those Cayennes are so good to drive. And they're so quick and they're so capable. Amazing. Your engineers, you're doing a fantastic job. You really, really are. But from a road user's perspective, I just find them it's a strange thing to want. I don't know. I don't get it. But then again, I quite happily drive around in a 30-year-old car that often has an exhaust leak. So what the hell do I know? So
yeah,
but
it's just weird, isn't it? It's like we've sort of the epitome of a modern car at the moment by society or manufacturers or whatever seems to be like a really crazy SUV, and I think that it's just odd. Like they're not. I've struggled getting in a car. Like if I had a Range Rover, for example, and it got 15 or 20 mpg everywhere, you're like, that just seems ridiculous. Like if you can buy the same car but an estate version that's faster, handles better, comfier, but will do 30 mpg, like, well, surely, like, is there not part of your brain that goes, driving this large brick around is stupid? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting, isn't it? Because interesting when you speak to non-car people about what car they're going to buy next. So my partner's best friend is looking for a new car, and she sent me a load of lists, and it was an Audi RS3, Golf GTI Club Sports, and a BMW 140i. And I said, look, these are all amazing cars. Like, these are absolutely fantastic cars. But why are you spending this much money? Like, you realise that for the same amount of money, you could buy yourself like a really nice anything. Actually, no, this amount of cash. You're not into your cars. You don't service it. You don't look after the tyres. You don't do this. You don't do that. Like, this is just going to cost you more money. But it's cool, isn't it? Yeah, it's cool. But like, it just seems odd that I'm not particularly into washing machines. So therefore, when I go into Curry's, I will buy the first washing machine I see because I don't care. Same with fridges. Same with shirts, to be honest, as you can probably tell from the video. And so therefore, I'm not that fussed. And yet people who aren't into cars more and more now seem to be just buying the really, really high-end ones. And it's great for us in the second-hand market. I'm not trying to be snobby about it, but I just don't really get it. I just don't understand. But, it's great. But then when you look at the performance of these cars, like we've just said, I do wonder sometimes if some of these people have ever driven a performance car and done a track day and understand the physics of it when it all starts to go a bit wrong when the road's a bit slippy.
Yeah.
You can end up having a very big accident, and that's what concerns me.
Yeah. Well, I think we could go on this topic for a long time. Thanks very much for coming on the podcast. It's been
it's my pleasure. Thank you very much for having me, and I hope your listeners have enjoyed it, and I hope they maybe play with some Scalextric in the near future. And if it looks cold and wet outside, they can play with cars on their living room floor instead.